"You have the luck of the devil, Tom Hawkins." I grinned at the man across the bench. It was a warm September night. I had a full purse for the first time in months, and we had just found a table in the most disreputable coffee-house in London. Life could not be better. "It wasn't luck," I replied, shouting over the din. Charles Buckley, my oldest friend, shot me a look I had come to know very well over the years. Exasperation, disapproval, and a flicker of amusement glowing deep in his eyes. I settled back, content, and lit a pipe. One of my greatest pleasures in life was making Charles laugh when he knew he shouldn't. A serving maid passed close to our table, a pretty girl called Betty with tight black curls and skin the colour of roasted coffee beans. I beckoned her over and ordered a bowl of punch. "A bowl of coffee," Charles corrected, "and then home. You gave me your word, remember?" I slipped a shilling into Betty's hand. It felt good to have money again, and to spend it. Coffee, and a bowl of punch. "We're celebrating," I said, dismissing Charles' protestations with a lordly wave. Betty arched an eyebrow. There were only two reasons to celebrate at Tom King's coffee-house: a win at the tables or a full recovery from the clap. "I took £10 at cards tonight," I called out hastily, but she was already gliding through the crowds to the coffee pots hanging over the fire. When I turned back, Charles had his head in his hands. "What am I to do with you?" he groaned through his fingers. I looked out across the long, low room, breathing in the heady fumes of smoke, liquor, and sweat. I would hang up my coat tonight, and in the morning my little garret would be filled with the same familiar scents. "One bowl of punch, Charles, just one, to toast my skill at the tables tonight." Skill. He dropped his hands. Charles had a pleasant countenance, his features as neatly arranged as a well-proportioned drawing-room. It was not a face created for outrage, but he did his best, widening his dark brown eyes a fraction. "Skill? You risked everything on the turn of a card, down to your very last farthing. That is not skill, it's—" He shrugged helplessly. "It's madness." I didn't argue with him. Charles refused to believe there was anything more to gambling than blind luck, in part because he played so ill himself. No use explaining that I had known 3/4 of the men in that hot, smoke-filled gaming room, had played against them so many times that I understood their strengths and failings better than my own. No use explaining that, even half drunk, I could remember every card that had been played and work out the odds in a flash. To be fair, there was some truth in what Charles said. I had taken a terrible risk with that final bet, but I'd had no choice in the matter. My life had depended on it. Early that morning, my landlord and 3 other creditors had burst into my room and clapped an action on me for £20 in unpaid rent and other debts. The warrant had given me just 1 day's grace to pay enough to satisfy them. If I failed, I would be arrested at once and thrown in jail. Little frightened me in those days. I was 25, and death seemed a distant, hazy thing. But I knew 3 men who had been sent to a debtor's jail in the last year. One had died of a fever, another had been stabbed in a fight and only just survived. The third had passed through the prison gates, a fat, cheerful fellow, and emerged 6 months later, a grey, stuttering skeleton. He refused to say what had happened to him, and there was a look in his eyes when we pressed him, as if he'd rather die than speak of it. And so I'd flung on my clothes and run out into the brightening streets to call in every debt and favour I could think of. When that wasn't enough, I'd pawned everything of value until my room was stripped as bare as a maid on her wedding night. I saved only 2 items of any worth: my dagger for protection, and my best suit for deception. A little swagger and a few gold buttons will open most doors in London. My creditors had demanded half what they were owed as proof they would see the rest in good time. As the sun set, I counted out what I had made: 2 guineas and a handful of pennies, hardly a quarter the sum I needed. It was then that I was forced to do what I had been avoiding all day. I turned to Charles for help. We had been as close as brothers at school and at Oxford, but in the last few years our friendship had faltered. My old companion in mischief had become the Reverend Charles Buckley, a civil, sober gentleman who gave afternoon lectures to enraptured old ladies at St. George's on Hanover Square. All of this was well and good, I suppose.